You are checking after the yes with Sarah Jane.
Hey, my people. How's it going? Hello. Here we are again. We're here and welcome back. Thank you for hanging in there and coming back for another episode to see. Let's see what she's talking about this week. How has the week been? Before we just dive right in, right? And you're like, why am I going to bother answering? Because it's not like she's going to hear me. But still, talk to me. Talk to me. Let me know. I'll tell you, I'll go first. So, wedding season is in full swing, and I had a fantabulous, amazing wedding last week, and I this couple was such a gem. Like, I love my brides, and that happens so much that I never ever want to let them go. I shed a little tear, but I already told her, I text her after that she's stuck with me forever. So no more sleepless nights for her about everything and family coming in and stuff like that. So now we can just gab as girlfriends. So although the planning is over, that we're still locked in. So super happy, and it was a sunny day, and it might be a little brisk. It might have been a little brisk, a little windy, but sun means gorgeous pictures, and without the rain, so it's always a win. So we'll definitely take that, right? And so I hope the week was positive and productive for everyone that is tuning in. And like I said, thank you for joining in. What are we getting into? What we're getting into is, are we there yet? Yes. And you're probably like, why did she come up with these titles? Because work with me. There is a method, right? Because instead of just saying how long does it take to really plan your wedding, are we there yet? Really, I feel like you can connect the dots in saying, are we there yet? Right? And you can start planning, and a lot of times throughout the process, you will at some point, maybe a few times, feel like, are we there yet? Hence the title. So, the magic question, are we there yet? How long does it actually take to plan a wedding? Is there a right or wrong answer? It really all depends. I've already had inquiries for 2027, late 2027. I think a lot of times you're just excited. That makes sense. You're engaged, the dust has settled a little bit, and you can't wait to have the wedding of your dreams. So let's get cracking. I totally get it. And so 2027 date, I think sometimes let's do it a little further ahead so we can get our ducks in a row, figure out how things cost, what things cost, how to budget. And the thing is, realistically, it doesn't take 2 years to plan a wedding. Does it take a whole year to plan a wedding? You may need a year to plan a wedding, but does it take an entire 365 days to plan a wedding? Not necessarily. So let me break it down. Remember, I said I bring shams. So what did you guys bring? What did you guys bring today? I always bring shams. So you're going to see, if anything, she's consistent. I'm going to be consistent. Okay. So this is how it goes. There's a lot of different factors. So I think it depends on what type of wedding you're having and where you're having the wedding, right? Big city weddings, big venues, or really popular venues that are in heavy demand, most definitely you should do that inquiry and find out how far ahead they're booking, and venues will definitely lock you in and take that deposit 2 years in advance. So those factors definitely come into play. Destination weddings. We will have a whole podcast about destination weddings coming soon. A destination wedding. A lot of planning comes into play in regards to the travel part, letting guests know. Sometimes guests have to budget a little bit more, passports and things like that. So definitely more than a year in advance. But do you need to start sending out save the dates 2 years in advance? No. So if you're in a big city, a very popular venue that's in high demand, I would definitely go ahead and do that inquiry. If you just want peace of mind and say, okay, great, I know this budget is this venue is going to be 60,000. I've been dreaming about this venue before I even met you, and you know it's a must. Lock that in, and then you can rest. Breathe in, breathe out, and you already know you don't have to worry about it. You can stick a pin in it, and then you can continue enjoy being engaged. Keep dating, keep doing the fun stuff, right? Get that Pinterest board started. A lot of brides, couples, they get the Pinterest board, they get the notebook, start really visualizing the plan, the ideas, and that's what that lull time is about. Because a lot of couples don't understand there are ebbs and flows in regards to wedding planning. I've worked with couples. Sometimes we start more than a year in advance. If it's been quiet for a week or 2 weeks, they're wondering what's going on. What should we be doing? Did I miss out on something yet? Absolutely not. We may have 14 months to plan the wedding, but we don't need every day of 14 months to plan the wedding. Does that make sense? The biggest elephant is always the venue. And then if you didn't come with a date in mind, let's find the dream venue that has a date that works best, and then we lock that in. And then if we don't need an out of the country, or we aren't in an out of the country type of situation, then let's kind of plan things out. And we do like a play-by-play of where we are in the timeline. So if you started 2 years in advance because this dream venue has just about that wait list, you get that done, and then you keep enjoying life, and you keep enjoying being engaged and date, and are we going to get a house, baby, or what else do we want to do? You know, enter like those special things that tailor the event to the two of you, that make it your personal like day where it says so much about who the two of you are, right? And then as some time passes, save the dates. Save the dates are super important. How many guests do you have coming from out of town? Do you have guests coming out of town from far away? I've done weddings in New York, and they had guests coming from South Africa, from the UK, like all over the country. And let's face it, New York City is not inexpensive. Hotels are not inexpensive, even if you get an awesome room block. So yes, let's let them know. Let's give them a heads up. People have to take days off. And if they're traveling from afar, budget for the hotel and the airfare and things like that. And normally they're not coming alone. So we'll pick things back up after, it's been a couple months after the venue has been locked in. Now it's time to let them know, and they're going to be super excited. So, okay, now it's time to figure out, what are we doing for save the dates? Let's let them know. Okay, babe, our color palette. What's our color palette? If you guys didn't decide that yet. So if you want everything to tie in and you like a clean and concise look, it's time to put people in the know. So are we going to keep that clean and concise look all the way through? So let's decide that before we send out the save the dates for our wedding that might at this point be 14 months out, right? Okay. So then we send out the save the dates. If necessary, we secured a room block for our guest, our out of town guest. And then what needs to be done? Okay. If you're in a big city and top and key vendors are in heavy demand, let's go ahead and check out, let's say, our photographer and a DJ or a band, or let's put out inquiries, right? Because if one of the reasons why you picked 18 months or 2 years out is so you could budget everything and make sure all the finances are locked in, or to give your family that's helping out a heads up, you peep what's out there, you find 3 or 4 ones that you really love. Okay, this is where they are, and go, this is how much it's going to cost. And then plug those numbers in, and then kind of figure out, okay, this one has payment plans, this is how it's going to work. And then go, okay, we're either going to lock this in, or this is what we want. So let's reach for this one in 4 or 6 weeks. If he's not available, you have a second favorite, right? So there's definitely benefits to starting a little earlier. You know how to budget, you know what to expect, right? The ones that you love, you get a pick of the litter, right? Because normally 2 years out, 18 months out, most vendors are still available. Some vendors actually will not book too far ahead, but 18 months, usually safe, they're usually willing to. So there's definitely some advantages to doing that. So if you really love a vendor and you want to lock certain details in, that's how you can go about it. So you can find that, find the photographer of your dreams, the entertainment band or DJ of your dreams, and then go, okay, now let's do a breather. What would we do next? Let's get into attire. If it's going to be for a bride, that can take months. I've worked with brides that it takes months, especially if you want mom or some bridesmaids to come with you, to get everybody on the same schedule, to go to a bridal shop. And very rarely does it take just one visit. So if you're going to have to do it a few times, that can take a couple months. So now we've done that. We might be at like month 14 or month 13. So you see how, although you don't need every day of 24 months, how the time can pass by. And then, okay, now we can check that off the list. Let's move on to the bridesmaids. Let's talk about flowers. Let's talk about decor. So time does move, and time does move quickly, but you really won't need every day. And I promise you, you'll appreciate it. You won't feel like worn down. It won't feel like a job. You'll actually be excited and appreciate the quiet times where it doesn't feel like everyday wedding, because there's still life. There's still work. There's still like dating. It won't be like every time you guys see each other, there's all these to-do things about the wedding where you guys aren't connecting together and building your relationship and your future lives together, that it won't be like, oh my gosh, I feel like we eat, sleep, breathe wedding things. So I promise you, you don't want to do that, and you'll appreciate not having to do that. Some cons to having a lot of time. I can tell you what I have personally experienced with couples is when you have a lot of time, you tend to change your mind a lot. You tend to go back to the drawing board. And that might be also part of social media and Pinterest and things. You're like, yes, I bet. We decided on a color palette. We decided on decor or linens and things. And this looked prettier. And let's change our minds. Let's change our minds about this, that, and the other. And it can make things chaotic, and it becomes time consuming. And so that can be counterproductive to be just going, oh, this is pretty and this is prettier. And, oh, I saw this online. And what do you think about this? And just sometimes, because when you've decided so many things super early on, and now you have this dead time, you kind of feel like you're missing out a little bit, and that you should be doing some wedding things. So you just go and you look some more and get inspired some more. And so those kind of things happened in regards to having too much time on your hands. And so that can be frustrating, definitely if you have a wedding planner, or your significant other can be like, oh, but I thought we I thought we did this already. If your family is helping footing the bill, now they don't do this with venues because venues don't play about that. Then they can be like, okay, you're not getting your money back. So it's pretty much like things about like decor that they go back to and flip the script. What we're doing with decor, what we're doing with flowers, changing colors and things like that. Not really changing like everything in its entirety, like we're going back to the venue from scratch or anything like that. That's the biggest thing I've seen when there's a lot of time on our hands. We tend to rethink things. I've even seen dresses, wedding dresses, go back to the drawing board for wedding dresses and bridesmaids dresses and things like that as well. So are we there yet? Now, realistically, if you're not in a super busy area and it's not a destination wedding and say majority of your guests are local, I think a sweet spot is about 9 months. Now, granted, when you get engaged, most couples already have a season in mind, right? And so if you got engaged on New Year's Day, New Year's Eve, super romantic and, nice and stuff, but you've always envisioned a spring wedding, you have no choice to do the cycle and wait until next spring comes around because it's pretty hard to do your wedding in 3 or 4 months. So if you're going to wait for it to come back around, you have no choice but to look at about 13, 14 months if you're looking at March or April. But depending on how flexible you are, on average, a comfortable, nice flow of things is about 9 months, right? Because there's things in addition to attire, obviously, in addition to venue and photography and videography and the entertainment and figuring out the menu and transportation and your bridal party and travel and cake and lions and tigers and bears. Oh my. So without feeling like every day you're inundated with decisions, right? Because even from a wedding planner's perspective, we're bringing things to the table for you, right? We're reminding you this is what's next. This is what we have to decide. This is what we have to figure out, but we're not making decisions for you. So we're going to say this vendor is available. This vendor is amazing. This is their cost. This is their proposal, but you still have to make the decision. And so we don't want you to feel pressure. We don't want you to feel overwhelmed. So this by all means is not just tell you, don't start 2 years in advance. All you need is 4 months. We're not saying that. Probably like, who's where? I thought there's only you, Sarah Jane. I'm speaking for wedding planners. I know you guys are going to agree with me. Sarah Jane is not saying that. But as I hope I've explained, that there's various factors, but I feel in my experience, a comfortable spot is about 9 months. Area matters. If it's out of the country, definitely matters because I do a lot of destination weddings. A big part is me. I want you to enjoy the process because I do not make decisions for couples. And I don't want couples to feel stressed out that if they get home from work, now there's all these decisions I need them to make and they can't even breathe and they have to go through emails and proposals and packages. And obviously sometimes there might be work or graduating from law school, med school, grad program, PhD program. I have done it all. I've had clients in Japan where I was doing consultations at like 1 a.m. And so we had like a deadline to finish things. And there's obviously always an exception to the rule. But enjoying the wedding planning process is equally as important as the wedding day. I personally believe that because I don't want couples to feel like I can't wait to get this over with and hurry up and get to the wedding day. So are we there yet? we can get there without feeling car sick. And what would car sick be like? Like, oh my gosh, I've been in this car forever. When are we getting to a stop? Right. And so I think a long car ride is what usually causes that. And so the real purpose of this podcast to explain it is that um, you don't need a long period of time to plan your wedding. You don't need 2 years. You don't need 2.5 years. But if certain situations call to plan far out, realize that you don't need every day, every week, or every month to necessarily accomplish the wedding planning. Take that breather for yourself. Take that breather for you guys together and still enjoy each other as a couple. Take that breather for everyone around you. They might not tell you that. And so, since I am completely unrelated, I will say that people love you and appreciate you and enjoy exactly who you are and who you were before you got engaged and before you were planning a wedding. So they do not want to feel like they're losing you to this and feel submerged by it every single time that they see you, especially with it being that far ahead. So appreciate the ebbs and flows, appreciate the quiet times, because there will be days and sometimes weeks that there is not a lot to do. And when you get to that sweet spot, that 9 to 12 months, there'll be a lot in the beginning. Let's find a venue, let's find a photographer, a DJ, let's lock in the dress, do the bridal party stuff, and then it's quiet. Now let's work on save the dates, wedding website, that kind of thing. And then it's quiet. And then you'll find as you get like towards the end, then we're not worried. Then it gets busier and then it kind of stays busy because now we're at the details. We're at the details, right? So we're sending out invitations and then we're going to stress a little bit about RSVPs. And we're not even going to talk about that today because RSVPs. Do you guys know what I'm talking about with the RSVPs? RSVPs. We're going to get to that another time. Okay. So, RSVPs. And as RSVPs come, seating plan, seating chart, who's sitting with who, the details, the favors, cocktail napkins, our music selections. What are we walking into? What are we dancing to? Right? How do we make sure it's a great party? Those last minute cancellations, those last minute additions. So it really does balance out, but that's kind of like how the movement, how the dance goes. Okay. Did that help? So listen, you guys, you're not going to continue to hear just my voice. And I might have just said a couple things that you were like, oh, ring a ding ding. And I said something that was like, ooh, light bulb, but I might not have elaborated on it more, or the situation is really similar to you. Please, by all means, I am very happy to go back and recap on podcast or after I've posted it. You can post a question underneath it and I will answer the question, or I might just do it at the end of a podcast and be like, oh, hey, Samantha, thanks so much for that question on my Are We There Yet? Episode 4. I have an email address after the podcast, after the yes podcast at gmail.com. Please email me your questions from podcast, or you can put them, if you listen to me or watch me on YouTube, you can do it directly under. If you have show suggestions, you can email as well. If you were like, hey, I would love to be on the show because this has been driving me nuts. I need somebody to hear me out. I am down for the cause, all of the above. Okay. So please open to anything and everything. This is a safe space. Please, by all means, that is what I'm here for. So I hope that this kind of just sheds some light on how much time do you need. I know sometimes people get started and they go, I have no idea what I'm doing. So they're not intentionally meaning to start 2.5 years in advance. I personally do not take clients 2.5 years in advance. I don't take clients 2 years in advance. Historically, I felt that when couples start 2 years in advance, they think that means we need to work for 2 years. That's me personally. Every wedding planner is different. I don't judge any couple because I really believe you just don't know what you don't know. And most couples are planning this for the first time. So I hope that this has helped a little bit and go, ooh, okay, I get it. And like I said, there's so many different scenarios in regards to when you should start. And I hope you give yourself some grace in regards to the wedding planning process while still loving one another and growing together and enjoying love and the next phase of your lives together. So, what's next? Now that we dipped our toe in that topic, what's next? I have a bride that I'm going to talk to, and I'm going to be all nosy and in her business because she's what started after the yes, right? And I want to know how things have been since she has been engaged. It's brand spanking new, just like a month. And then I want her to ask me. She's not a client or anything, so maybe I can help provide some guidance to point her in the right direction. I hope I can do that. And then what else do we have in the pipeline? Like I mentioned, we're going to have destination weddings is a whole beast on its own. I might need a whole hour for that because that's definitely been booming for sure. So that is also in the pipeline. Hey, how much say does your family have in what you're doing when they contribute to the budget or even when they help pay? Like I've had that, and somebody asked me about that today actually, but that was actually on my to-do list. And then I was like, okay, this is confirmation then I need to move this subject to the higher hierarchy on the list. Okay. So hey, we made it through another podcast. How are you feeling? Let me know. Drop it in the comments. You can say, Sarah Jane, I need more. Sarah Jane, I need less. Tell me what you need. Sarah Jane, stop drinking champs. Go to hard liquor. No, I'm just kidding. Tell me whatever you want. She is not sensitive. But have I told you lately that I appreciate y'all? I really do. I'm getting the hang of it. I'm super excited about it. And tell a friend. And I'm grateful that you're here. And I will be back super soon. This is After the Yes with Sarah Jane.